Bam! It's live time. Tone that energy down, Adam. That's a little too joyous and exciting. You might turn people off. It's important when you're doing a live show. I was taught by a couple people, don't start by saying, "Hi, my name is Adam Quiney. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that." Like, just don't do that. It's very boring for people. They don't like you to be boring. And I asked the person, what should I do then if not being boring? Because I'm good at that. And they told me, they paused and they said, um, I can't remember the exact words they said. I think they said, evoke curiosity. I don't know how to do that. Seems like a lot of work, guys, evoking curiosity. What I find works best for me is just having a bunch of fun. I like having a lot of fun. And hopefully, we live in a world where you also enjoy just having a lot of fun. So, it's
Okay.
live time. Hey, quiet you. And mute that. Yo, Andrew Monday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. All right, well, we'll get this here. I'm just getting this all set up so it looks nice and good. I'm going to close Discord. I don't know why Discord's showing up on my live zone. Oh, because I put it there. Does anyone else use spaces or desktops in Macintosh? This is something I picked up from my time as a developer when I was developing software. In Linux machines, you can basically have virtual desktops. So, you've got your desktop, which has your applications open in it, your apps, as the kids say, because it's faster and more efficient. Probably the time hackers also say that. And then what a virtual desktop you can do is you can enter a keystroke like Command 2 or Control 2 on your keyboard, and it jumps to a new desktop that might not have any apps on it. So for me, the way I have my computer set up, and I wonder if anyone else does this, is desktop number 1 is where my the application that I could call it like my system that holds all of my thinking, my second brain, some people call this. The program's called Roam Research, but it's where I put all my notes. Some people use Evernote or a program like Obsidian, or you might just use TextEdit to manage all your thoughts and track everything. I use Roam, but that's where desktop 1 is. Desktop 2, so if I hit Command 2, I can jump over there. I guess it's Control 2 for me. Desktop 2 is all my web browsing. Desktop 3 is my calendar. Desktop 4 is my mail. And so the nice thing about that is I can be focused just on one thing. If I hit Command 2, all I've got open is my web browsing. If I hit Command 9, Desktop 9, that's all my chatting, all the fun stuff, all my friends, the few friends that I chat to regularly. I'd like to have more ongoing daily chats, but I haven't found the way to create that. So as a result, I use Discord and I talk to people about NetHack. Andrew's just saying, your favorite phrase that you heard this week is to establish authority in a discovery call. Ooh, authority. What a way to set up a conversation then by showing your potential client that you are better than or at a higher level than them. I love that idea, and I want to riff on it because there is something really potent that I think a lot of coaches step past that we can do. And we are going to talk about Magic the Gathering, guys. I've got magic cards here, and we're going to be talking about them. So don't think we're stepping past that. We're not. And look, I'll give you a sneak peek. Look, there's a black lotus right there. We're going to talk about that too. It'll be interesting, I promise, because I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to make it interesting. Establish authority to sort of show up better than someone, or all of that. Oh, hey, Carl, long time no chat. Forget that they're there. That's cool. And hey, Vicky, it's nice to see you. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday the 13th. We are effed. It's the most occult, most frightening of all the 13s. Sidebar before I talk about authority and what there is for us to do on a call. When I was a kid, I was very big about like creating affectations. And I still have tendencies that sort of mirror this today. Hey, Tom, nice to see you, brother. Tell us about did you go all the way just on water through the stag? Because if so, I want to give you a hell yeah, brother. I want to shout you out. I won't call you out, but I just want to give you a congratulations and some love. When I was a kid, I very early on came to this kind of conclusion, oh, I'm a loser. People don't really like me. The solution to that false belief that I created as a real true belief, I really believed it, was figure out what people do and mimic it. So there's two things. Tom and I met last time we were down in ceremony. Congrats, by the way, buddy. No, just water. That's incredible. I bet you really created a clearing for some of your friends to show up differently too. What was the impact of that on other people? There must have been some. Um, Tom has a thick as fuck Irish accent. It's a delight to hear, and half the time I couldn't understand a damn word he was saying. It must have been infuriating being with me because I kept being like, "Can you slow down just a bit?" Especially when I was still feeling the medicine. So I naturally pick up accents. When I'm with people, I just start accenting my words the way they are, not because I think I sound cool, just because I love it. And I want to, I want to be in their mouth. I want words to sound as cool coming out of my mouth as theirs. So I naturally pick that up. I pick up dialect. I pick up inflections in tone of voice. And the other thing I'm a sponge for is hand gestures. So I can tell you like, the two guys that run Rhythmia or are heavily involved in it, Jerry and Jeff, this is just an example, but they both have distinct hand gestures. Jerry, I notice, will count on his little finger. He'd be like, one thing that's really important is, and Jeff, when he points to, I've sat in some classes he's taught, he point to the whiteboard, and one of his fingers is bent, and he'll point to it. And I noticed myself just picking that up, pointing to it. I started pointing to people that way because when someone would smoke a cigarette, that's how they'd point. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Pick that up. So anyhow, pick up these weird affectations. How did I get on this nonsense that I'm talking about? I can't remember. Let's talk about authority. So often we seek to establish authority as a reaction to our fear that we won't be taken seriously. So we're afraid we won't be taken seriously. And then it's like we're coming over the top in poker. When someone bets into you, you're like, fuck you. You think I don't have the stones? You don't think I don't have the cards in my hand here that I'm holding? I'm going to show you. I'm going to bet right back at you. So that's often where an attempt to establish authority comes from, is they're being the expression of, I'm afraid you aren't taking me seriously, so I'm going to show up powerfully in compensation for that. Hey, Carla, it's nice to see you. Hola, hermana. Let me see if I can get this right. Pura vida, hermana. Yo soy aprendiendo un poco español cada días. Did I say that right? Does that kind of sound good? I'm learning bit by bit. I'm learning Spanish a little bit each day. So if you think about someone being the expression of what we tend to think is, oh, people don't see below that surface. They just see me showing up as authority. Wow, they are receiving my authority. And often at our level of consciousness, what we're aware of when we're interacting with other people is just that, just the thing showing up on the surface. But what we are unconscious of is that we pick up on the entirety of someone's expression unconsciously. So what I mean by that, top man, thanks, Tom. I'm trying to put that into your accent. What I mean by that is I can consciously, I'm like, oh, this person is speaking with a lot of authority. But unconsciously, I'm also picking up all of that other stuff below the surface. And so the entirety of their expression on the surface is just this person speaks with authority. But the fullness of what's being expressed is, I'm afraid you don't think that I'm what's the right word? I'm afraid you don't think I have credibility. I'm afraid I don't have credibility, and I will be authoritative to compensate for that. And all of that gets transmitted to us, whether we want it to or not. And so what gets transmitted and then what gets picked up unconsciously by me is this vague sense of like, something's weird, something's off. And so if you start to tune your antenna, as we start to become a little more fine-tuned in our ability to distinguish what we're picking up from people, you'll start to notice when you're with someone that's just bringing authority at you, that you're sort of like, wow, I feel simultaneously like I should sit back and just let this person tell me what they think. And at the same time, I feel like they're kind of full of shit. And that's an interesting tension that gets created. And that's the impact when we don't distinguish and sort of take ownership for what's really going on beneath the surface. We start to transmit this confusing message to people. Now, having said that, there's also a real gift that we can take on as coaches, as leaders, as anyone committed to doing work, to bringing work, which is to set a container with a degree of confidence for people. And so for coaches, when someone starts coaching early on, they're nervous about it. This applies to literally any service-based profession. You have a new service that you want to offer people, and you're kind of, I'm afraid people don't want it. I'm afraid people feel like I'm selling. I'm afraid. And from our fear, what we do is we resist coming out and offering something to someone powerfully in a way that they could say, I would like that, or I don't want that. I'm not interested in that. I don't want anything to do with that. Because we're afraid of getting the no, because we make the no significant, we sort of show up in a way that makes it hard for someone to say no to us. This is why early on, I mean, the world I know is coaching, but it happens everywhere. You get coaches that say really weird stuff. Like they'll be like, well, I'm a coach now, and if there's ever any time you'd maybe like a conversation where we kind of do some coaching, let me know. And then they trail off. So they're not actually asking a question that someone can say yes or no to. They're leaving this dangling open loop. And so we can serve ourselves, we can serve other people, and we can bring a new level of power to the conversation by being willing to just make an offer and let people sit with it, to actually set up parameters for the conversation. I've got something I could offer you. It's a coaching conversation. Are you interested in that? No, I think I'd rather just like chat. Great, let's do that. So it's very freeing when we step into this, but early on it's very scary because we have to be willing to confront our fear and our significance about the no or what they might say or what they might think about us or any of that stuff. Okay, where's my, I want to read what you wrote, Andrew, here about my sophistication. It's pretty, Andrew says it's pretty advanced stuff, Adam. Don't want to brag, but yeah, I'm pretty advanced. Andrew, you say, I just throw everything into Google Drive and send text messages to myself and then type them out onto a doc at the end of the week. Awesome. That sounds like a fantastic system. But Rome Research has still been lingering in my mind to check out. I think Rome Research is phenomenal. And it's a little bit dense. It requires some work to get into and to pick up. But once you're into that system, I can't recommend it enough. I think it's just absolutely incredible, and the what it allows for is amazing. And just as by way of example, all of my live shows, all the notes for this are there, and I've got a page called the live show, and then each of those has like, the live show for May 13th, and then I can click into that, and it shows me all the notes, number of viewers, 3, highest viewers at any given time. Who wrote comments? I don't keep track of who wrote comments, but like who asked questions, so I can go back and look at all that stuff. Every morning I get up and I do what's called a clearing exercise to get clear, like what's that stuff that's currently unconscious in me? What's the shitty story that I've woken up with? And I do work to clear that out. All those clearing exercises are kept in my room. It's incredible. Really, really potent. Okay. I think we should start off by talking about Magic the Gathering. And then we'll talk about the leadership and coaching and transformation. That feels like what we're going to do. We're going to do that. That's what's going to happen. So for those of you that were not aware, and this may blow your mind, probably not at all, I was a huge giant nerd in high school, and this part may be really shocking, I remain a huge giant nerd. And the pedigree of giant nerds, it's kind of, hey, Michelle, it's nice to see you. I adore you as well. The pedigree of giant nerds back in my day was Dungeons and Dragons and then later Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is this badass card game. It's an incredible game, and I'll explain why in a sec. But the premise is you are a wizard, you have a satchel of spells, and you are using your spells to defeat the other wizard. First of all, that's amazing. Who wouldn't want it? Anyone that's like, I don't want to be a wizard, I don't know what your problem is. Wizards are awesome. So that's the first thing. And what makes Magic the Gathering so incredible is there is a foundational set of rules that were created when the game was invented in 1994. And ever since that game was created in 1994, multiple times a year, they've released new sets of cards that you can use to build a deck and play with. So if you think about that, Magic the Gathering is effectively a game built on a very well created foundational set of rules that has been developed actively for 30 years. So just imagine the richness, the variety, the extensibility, the whole vast sort of amounts of places you could explore inside of a game that's been evolving for 30 years. It's not that the rules have stayed the same. Every time they release a new set, that set fundamentally alters the way the game is played, but without ever totally breaking the game. So that is fucking cool. And games like that are hard to come by. Most games stay pretty static, like football, soccer. The rules are the way the rules are, and it's not like each year they're like, now there's a new rule. You can use your hand to slap someone on the top of the head. I'm just imagining in my moment what that would look like for the female championship football players and the male championship football players, because boy, the women are hardier in that sport than the men. The men are very dainty, I notice. This does look a little ayahuasca, although, Tom, for me to be drinking this much ayahuasca, oh boy, what would I be getting myself into? So, the thing about Magic the Gathering is that to get cards, you have to buy packs. They are released kind of like baseball. You buy these packs, there is a rarity to the cards, and so certain cards are harder to acquire. They require you buying more packs, which allows you to get the rarer cards, just a law of averages. And the more powerful cards are more rare. And further, unlike baseball cards, where a baseball card's value is solely determined based on how rare it is in circulation. So like a Mickey Mantle baseball card, there's very few of those in circulation, so they're worth quite a bit. Magic the Gathering, what makes a card worth money is twofold. First, it's its rarity. So this is a land, there you go, a forest, which is common. You can get these anywhere. They're very cheap. This particular one would be more expensive because it's a fancy printing, but for the most part, lands are easy to find. This card, this dragon I'm going to talk about, is rare, which means it's harder to find, and therefore just inevitably it's worth more. The second thing that makes a card worth more money is that it has a powerful effect on the game. And this card right here, called the Black Lotus, is the most expensive card in the entire game of Magic. It's worth, you can look it up on eBay. Last time I checked, it was about $4,000 is what it would cost to buy one of these. These days I might have climbed up to $7,000. This one I have is totally beat up because I won it as a kid, and I decided, screw it, I'm not going to protect this card. I'm a tough guy. And so I shuffled with it and ruined it, and so it's probably worth very little. That's still worth a lot. Still play with it. So that's the two things that make a card worth a lot of money. And the reason this is worth so much, I'm going to explain it a little bit more, is because it's very rare. They stopped printing these early on. They made these around 93, 94, and then they took them out because they were like, this card's too powerful. So there's one, there's not a lot in circulation, and two, it's incredibly powerful in the game. Here's why, then we're going to move on. So the way Magic the Gathering works is fundamentally what you are doing in the game is you are setting up resources that you can use, and you are using those resources to cast spells, which is how you defeat your opponent. A land like this is a resource. It gives me 1 green mana there. You can see that. Every turn after I've played it. I could play this mountain. There you go. It gives me a red mana every turn after I play it. Cards have a cost. Up here in this corner, it says the number 2, which means it requires 2 mana, and it doesn't care what color it is in order for me to play it. And I can play only 1 land a turn. So the first turn, I put this land into play, and then I can cast anything that costs 1 red mana or 1 of whatever color mana. So the first turn of the game, I'm not able to play this. It costs 2, and I only have 1 land. Next turn, I play my second land, so I've got 2. Now I can use these and I can cast this, what is this? A Talisman of Curiosity. So I can put that into play. This card is Badass Dragon. Now, let's be honest. If you're a wizard fighting other wizards, you want to crush them with dragons, right? This is a bit of a no-brainer. So this guy, as you can tell, costs quite a bit more. It costs 2 and a black, a red, and a green, which means I need to have this swamp in play that gives me black mana. I need to have this mountain in play that gives me red. And I need to have this forest in play that gives me green. And I need to have two more lands in play. So there's this natural kind of scaling that happens in the game. This card, if I played it on the first turn, would be really bad for my opponent. I'd be able to start punching their face hard right out of the gate. But I can't because it requires 5 mana, and I can only play 1 land per turn. So I kind of have to, hey, focus on me, camera. This is the talent. You need this dragon, Tom. Get this dragon. So there's a you could think of it like a bit of a safety sort of valve in the game. It wouldn't be that much fun if I could just throw this at my opponent right out of the gate. I'm just going to kill them and the game would be very short. So Magic the Gathering has this natural build over time where early on in the game, I can't play stuff that's very powerful. I can only play stuff that costs cheap. And then as time goes on, I can play more and more awesome, powerful stuff. See you, Tom. Thanks for tuning in, man. I love you, brother. Great work. Great work. Thanks for being a leader, showing your friends what's possible at the Stag. Whereas later on, I can start to play this awesome stuff. Here's why the Black Lotus is such a powerful card. Remember, I can only play 1 land a turn, and my lands and the mana they give me access to is what I need in order to start playing more powerful cards as the game goes on. The Black Lotus is an artifact. An artifact is a spell. And you'll notice right up there in the corner, right over here, there's the number 0. And what that means is this costs nothing to cast. If you have this in your hand in the first turn, you can play it for free. And what this artifact does is it says add 3 mana of any color to your mana pool, and then discard this, throw this out. So what that says to us is that on the second turn, when my friends have 2 lands, and they're casting this stupid Talisman of Curiosity, I can have 2 lands, and I can play this Black Lotus, and I can throw it out, and on the second turn, I can play this stupid giant dragon and use it to punch them in the forehead, which is quite unpleasant for them. It's great for me. I win the game very quickly. The designers of the game, Magic the Gathering, played with this initially, and then were like, this is broken. This breaks the flow of the game because it lets people do stuff that's far too powerful way too early in the game. It completely wrecks the fundamental rule, the fundamental premise of the game, which is you can get 1 extra mana each turn and slowly build up to your powerful spells. Now, there's other stuff that they've created since then that kind of does what's called ramping you. It gives you access to more mana sooner so you can do something, but there's nothing along the lines of the Black Lotus. The Black Lotus is absurd. And the way people describe it is there's not a single deck in Magic the Gathering. You build your deck, which is part of the fun. You're like, I want these cards and this mana, and then I'm going to do this stuff to my opponent, shuffle it up, let's play. And so what happens is that every single deck you could conceive of in the game of Magic would be better with a Black Lotus in it. So it's a very distorting card. It stops being fun to build a deck. You stop choosing from the 60 cards you want to play, and instead you're always choosing from 59, because this will always be in your deck because there's not a single deck better with it. And that is why this card is worth so, so much. It is so powerful, so distorting, and so rare that everyone wants it. If you're going to play tournaments in the sort of format where that's allowed, you got to have that. To your question, Andrew, they haven't really created counters. Instead, what they've done is they just stopped printing it. They've removed it effectively from the game. So it exists in very niche. There's formats. Modern formats are called modern, and they only allow you to use so many sets backwards. Whereas there's a set called, or a format of play called Legacy, which allows you to use all the cards over the last 30 years. And in Legacy, everyone plays with the Black Lotus. And yeah, there's stuff you can do with it, but for the most part, the designers of the game are just like, get that out of there. It's too powerful. It wrecks the game. Okay. So, as I suspected might be the case, we've pushed out everyone but 2 of you by talking about Magic the Gathering. Perfect. Now we can talk about the good shit. Now you know why the Black Lotus is worth so much. Magic the Gathering is a very fascinating game. It's a very rich, deep game, and it's really interesting to me how you have something that's really scarce and also so fundamentally valuable, and what that does to the market, how that distorts stuff. It's kind of like spice in Dune. Everyone wants spice in the movie, the book Dune. It's so valuable and it's so rare. It only exists on this one planet called Caracas. And so it consequently distorts all of capitalism around it. Spirituality gets built based on spice and all that. Okay. Um, hmm. Andrew, that's a great question. Andrew's asking, did I ever take a break from the game? And if so, how was it getting back into it and learning all the new sets? I've taken many breaks from it. Sometimes, like when I went back to school, so when I went to university and got serious, I stopped playing Magic for a couple of years. When I went back to law school, I stopped playing Magic for a couple of years. Um, there's just ebbs and flows. But the thing that's beautiful about that game is my friends and I always come back to it because it's just so rich. It's so cool. And my friend, I have a really good friend who moved back to Victoria. He was living in Nashville, Tennessee for 10 years. And he's also named Adam. And it was a real treat to have him come back to us. And he started getting back into Magic. We all started playing again. And he was just sharing like, man, he's very funny. And he was like, the innovation is beyond anything I could have conceived. This is so cool. And so it's really neat to come back and be like, what's really fun about Magic is there's a foundational set of rules, and then new cards that they create kind of break those rules. So a rule kind of says like, when a creature takes enough damage, you remove it from play, it's discarded. And then they create new cards that say, except when this happens. And in this instance, when a creature takes enough damage, instead do that much damage to your opponent or whatever. And so it's really neat seeing like, oh, I had all these assumptions based on this, but now those assumptions I have to throw out and I have to think of this game in a new way. And it's really cool. A little bit speaks to transformation that way. Okay, so since you're one of the few people here right now, Andrew, let's take this time to talk about projects and our relationship with goals. So I'm going to start by reading the comment you posted. Did you post a comment? I know you did. I just have to find it here in my, there we go. Just got to find it in my little, come on, show me Adam Quiney. Let me view his stuff. Yeah, there, and then, yes. Quick previous. Okay, there we go. So Andrew, I got it. I got the question. Andrew's saying, I've been noticing that I have a few clients who have done amazing work in our time together, but there have been breakdowns in terms of project design. Almost like the project design isn't even on their radar, more of like it's a nice to have, but not something to be committed to. I've definitely brought it up in conversation quite a few times, and I'm sensing that there is a point where possibly I need to shift the role or the way I'm presenting it. So projects are something that a lot of coaching either overly focuses on or makes a point of not focusing on. And both of those miss the mark. Projects are really, really important and valuable. And the way I invite my clients and myself, I invite myself to think about projects this way is projects are they're kind of like the placeholder, the tangible measure of the life of your dreams. We can talk about, I want to create the life of my dreams, and I want to feel more presence, and I want to feel more connection in it. We can say that. That's a beautiful starting point. But at that level of discernment, at that level of describing it, a project or 10xing your life or living with more connection or having more presence, those all are merely conceptual. What does it mean for you to 10x your life? Give me an example. And what a project does is it takes that conceptual, beautiful vision you have and it pulls it down and forces you to kind of plant a tent peg into reality. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's like a really simple way to describe it. And so when coaches work with people and they say they only ever coach someone's being, they never coach the doing, they're stepping over that. And so consequently, what the coaching tends to look like is a lot like the metaphor I use is like playing pool billiards, where there's no holes on the table. So you hit the balls and they move around and the person's like, that white ball there, I really want to move it over there. And so you do whatever you do and there's a great fracas and yeah, stuff moves around. But what are we moving towards? And the person's like, oh, well, I really want to feel motion. I really want to feel more connected. Okay, great. But like, how would we know we got there? I would just feel it in my body. Hmm, that's tough. Because now all we're doing is moving towards a feeling. And the nature of our feelings, as you've probably noticed, is they're quite fickle. Our feelings don't tend to stay rooted for very long. Thank goodness for those bad days. Too bad for those good days. So a project provides an opportunity for your client to root themselves, to ground their desire, their belief, their vision into something real, which gives us the foreground and the background of our life. Hey, Mia, nice to see you. So I'm looking forward to coming and staying with you, Mia, soon. I'm going to get to, Bay and I are going to Scotland to renew our vows. We're going to get to spend some time with Mia, which we're pumped about. Going to be hanging out in London. So if we have any London listeners or viewers, let me know so we can set up a time to go to a pub and have a Rory. I'm told in Cockney rhyming slang, a Rory McGrath, half. It's a half pint. Come on, stay with it, people. I don't think that anyone other than Rory McGrath says it that way, but I don't care. Can have a Rory. So let me know if you're in London and you want to meet up. I would love to meet up with you. So that's the beauty of a project is it draws a line in the sand for you. It forces you to put yourself at a decision point where you can't just say, I am going to create more connection in my life. The lovely magical thinking safety of just saying you're going to create more connection in your life is there's never any point where you have to confront that you're not doing it. When do you ever have to face that? Never. I'm just creating more connection in my life. How do I feel? And then as a result, the only thing you're really left to measure whether you're actually succeeding or not, or if there's something you need to change is how do you feel currently? How do you feel in the current moment? And so coaching down that line where we don't have any kind of real project, leadership down that line where we don't have anything on the table to move towards, it becomes very feelings driven. And so you end up with people that are like, one day they show up and they don't really know what they want to work on. And the next day they show up and they're like, I'm not making the most of this. I want more connection. And you're like, it all is very circular. So we use projects as a way of having someone make a commitment into their life, drawing a line in the sand. People will resist this. And the reason they will resist this is because drawing a line in the sand forces you to confront yourself. It forces you to confront whether what you are doing is actually working. And it's a lot more comfortable not to confront that. It's a lot more comfortable to just be with those moments where you feel bad and trade them off against those moments where you feel good. And you never really have to address how you're showing up in your life. You never really have to address whether or not the stuff that you say you're committed to actually is something you're really committed to. You just get to go through life based on feelings. And you get to show up and you get to be in these conversations with your coach, which kind of generates some awareness, or probably a better way to put it is they're kind of interesting. But who knows if they really move your life forward? I don't know. Maybe they do. We're not really sure because we have nothing to measure that against. So clients and direct reports and you and I will all resist projects. And we will resist projects because we don't like the feeling of not achieving the success that we want to achieve. We don't like the feeling of failing. We call it failing. We don't like that. I don't want to fail. I want to say I'm going to do something and be good. Now, intellectually, we understand that. I would love that, Carl. Can you send me a message so that that doesn't get lost? That'd be really cool. Intellectually, we understand that failing is an integral part of learning. We get that. We can know that. But to actually go beyond intellectual understanding, to go beyond simply knowing something to genuine wisdom, we can only arrive there through experience. And most of us are at this point in our life, pretty resistant to experiencing failure and the truth that failure is a required component of learning. And consequently, we never really learn. So all of this is kind of our foundation. It's our context for what you're describing, Andrew, which is clients and ourselves resist projects. We don't want to have them. And that resistance can show up any number of ways. For example, we may sort of Intellectually, we may should ourselves into doing a project. My coach is telling me I ought to do a project, therefore I'll do a project for my coach, not for me, because I'm not really enrolled in it, but my coach seems to think it's important. So I'll take on a project, we do the project, we design it, we fill it out, and then we forget about it. Fuck off, project. And then we're like, project didn't work. I guess projects they're not for me. Well, all we did was fill out a design and then throw it in the garbage. Why would that work? I'm laughing because someone just messaged me, which I'll share. It's kind of amusing to me. It's someone trying to pitch me. So I'm going to share about that shortly. Um, Hopefully with love. That's my commitment, is I share about it with love because this guy's doing his best. So that's one thing we do. We build a project because our coach invites us to, so we do it for them. We never really get enrolled in ourselves, and then it doesn't work because we didn't really do much with it. And then we're like, projects aren't for me. They suck. Fuck a project. I never coach projects. I only coach the being. We become the coach for the client that we are stuck at being. So that's one way it can go. Another way it goes is that people create a project, finally, they make it really significant, and when they miss their first milestone or when they miss the ultimate finish line, they're like, this feels terrible. I hate myself. I hate project. Fuck this. I'm never doing projects again. And then all manner of fascinating, interesting constrictions and strategies start to show up for these people to alleviate the problem they feel with the project. People start calling their projects experiments. They try to create a new way to hold it. Or they stop having goals and they start having impossible goals. Magic rainbow. If I had a rainbow thing, it would happen right now. Impossible goals. But the nature of an impossible goal is right out of the gate, you've already declared it's impossible. So you're not really going to show up fully committed to that goal, are you? So that workaround actually takes away from you any possibility of the magic that a project could really provide. It alleviates you from the pain of having to confront that what you did and how you showed up didn't work, and all of the blame and guilt and shame that you heap on top of that. That part's optional. It alleviates having to feel all of that, but it also removes all of the benefit of a project. And what you're left with is this tepid, lukewarm thing called an impossible goal, which is really like flipping a penny into a fountain. I wish for world peace. If it happens, cool. I'll do some stuff towards it maybe sometimes. We'll see. So all of this to say, it really makes sense that people resist projects. We have a ton of significance about projects. We make not achieving them really meaningful. It stops being, oh, I could set a goal, and the things I was doing to achieve that goal didn't actually achieve the goal. There must be a different way I need to do it. And instead, we relate to our quote unquote failure like a failure of ourselves, like a failure, like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is just making me feel worse about the stuff I'm doing. It's proving to me that I can't have what I want, blah, 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 blah. It's not fun. It's not nice. It's not pleasant to us. And so, of course, we resist it. So, Andrew, I don't know where your clients are in this process, and I don't know where you are in this process, but I do know that our resistance to projects is natural. It's human, and it's a sacred thing. We don't want to make that wrong. And so whether you're a leader working with people, whether you're a coach working with clients, whether you're yourself wanting to create a different experience of projects, the first thing that I really believe is important is for us to become enrolled in the possibility that a project represents. So what tends to happen is we begrudgingly say yes to a project because our coach or our leader or you sat on this live and you saw me saying it, told you to do it, which is sort of like, all right, I'm going to do this project because it's a good idea. And doing something because it's a good idea is no different than doing something because you should. Those two things are mutually inclusive. Well, they're synonymous. I'm going to eat healthy because it's a good idea. That tells me you don't really yet have a good reason to eat healthy. You're just doing it because someone somewhere told you, or because nature or whatever told you it's a good idea to eat healthy. And you're like, I guess I should eat healthy. Why do you want to eat healthy? Because it's a good idea. Yeah, but why? So we have to create an empowered, enrolled vision for doing this. We have to sit down and be like, what would be available for me if I was going to take on a project? Or if we're working with our clients, we have to let them air all of this stuff. We have to let them get complete, share, vent about how projects suck and you hate them. And on the other side of that, we have to ask, are you interested in creating a new relationship to this? Would you like to create an experience and a relationship to projects where you really feel empowered by them? Until we have that, nothing will work. And you yourselves, just like I have, will probably notice all of the stuff you're trying to do because it's a good idea. It has a very short half-life. It lasts precisely for as long as your willpower lasts. And trying to achieve stuff on willpower sucks. And you've probably noticed you don't need a lot of willpower to eat ice cream. I don't, at least. I'm enrolled in ice cream. Ice cream tastes delicious. Check. There is many different flavors. Check. Variety. You can put it in a waffle cone. Check. I'm on board. I don't have to willpower my way to eating delicious ice cream each and every day. I will do that free of any willpower. I don't have to rename the act of eating ice cream a gustatorial experiment. That's not required. None of that is required because I'm not trying to do something because it's a good idea. I'm doing something because I genuinely want to. Now, the gift here is that you can create yourself genuinely wanting to do anything anytime you want, but it does require you create that. You have to sit down and be like, what really would be available for me in taking on projects? And so when I have clients stuck in that place, that's usually the first thing I do. Let's see what you've written here, Andrew. Andrew says, I guess one of the things I'm noticing is that with multiple clients, I'll point out that the projects really aren't being attended to and discovering the impact of it. And ultimately, it's on them to decide where they want to go, and I've got to hold the space for both ways. Maybe they want to empower the structure, maybe they don't. Absolutely. So when clients resist projects and don't want to do it, the coaching, like I said, it tends to be kind of circular and interesting, but it doesn't really, their lives don't really change that much. Of course, because they don't have any commitment really on the table to change their lives that much beyond the concept of their lives changing very much. And being committed to a concept is much different than being committed to a tangible result. I can be committed to being a better husband, and I don't really have to do very much aside from feel bad when I'm a bad husband, whatever that looks like, and feel good when I'm a good husband. But there's no point where I have to be like, shit, I got to do this in the face of my resistance. There's nothing that really pushes me beyond that, beyond this weak commitment to a concept. But if I say something like, I'm committed to finding my way back to love through gratitude every time I'm angry at my wife for the next week, then every time I sit down and find myself angry at my wife, I got something I got to do. I got to sit down and take on that practice, whatever the practice I create to honor that is. So I might sit down with a mala and count 108 times all the things I love about her. There's many more than 108. It's a great practice, by the way, if you have a mala. I don't have any with me right now. There's one on the shelf behind me there that came to Machu Picchu. But I'll sit and count the beads often in ceremony, just thinking of my wife, Bay, and counting 108 things I love about her. So that project forces us into commitment. When you're coaching someone that's not really got a commitment on the table, there's not much guiding you. There's a lack of North Star. Instead, we end up just coaching whatever shows up. And so to your point, Andrew, all that our job to do is, as a coach or leader, is to reflect to someone how they're showing up. Hey, I noticed this is how things are going, and make sure that they want to choose that. I noticed that over the last 2 months, most of this coaching has been kind of circular. There's not really anything it doesn't sound like there's really much happening. There's some sort of surface level change, but I'm not really present to much transformation. Do you notice that? And how's that going for you? Is that what you want from this coaching? By the time we finish up at this end of the year, what are you going to be able to say about it? And is that what you want to be able to say about it? So all we're doing is like a mirror reflecting to the client, here's how it's going. Anything else you want? Our work as a coach, the hard work, is to let go of our attachment to them choosing one thing or the other. So I've had clients spend scads of money to work with me and resist projects. One of the first people, when I raised my rate to $30,000, I had a client who he paid $30,000 and he would not commit to any projects, which is very consistent for where he was stuck in his life. So it was beautiful that he was stuck not creating a project because that was a metaphor for how he was stuck everywhere in his life. He was not committing to anything. And I just kept reflecting to him, like, how's this going? And he'd show up and be like, I'm not making the most of the coaching, which is sort of like, uh, I don't know, what would it be like? Kind of like, I'm not making the most of my mortgage and having borrowed a bunch of money, but not really putting any attention on the house you want to own. So there wasn't much to make of the coaching because he wasn't committed to anything in his life. And so the coaching was very frustrating for him. And at times very frustrating for me because we weren't going anywhere. And I like to go somewhere. It's fun to work with people transformationally rather than just sit in kind of the doldrums. And a lot of that work was me getting supported by my coach to be totally at peace with how this person was showing up, loving them exactly as they were, and week after week reflecting, hey, I notice we seem to be in the same place we've been in for the last week, the last 2 months, the last 3 months. Is this where you want to be? No, Adam, I really want it to be different. Okay. What's that going to require from you? I don't know. Okay. Projects? I really don't want to do a project. Here's why. Okay. What do you want to do? I don't know. And it was very, the coaching was very boring. It was not, what's fun in coaching is when the person you're working with is committed to something that scares the pants off of them, because then shit happens. Then transformation can take place. But that's okay. The client was where they were at. And that was exactly the client that the universe brought to me in that moment to work with, because it was clear to me in hindsight, that's what I needed to learn to be okay with in my own life and with my clients. It's okay sometimes to just sit, not have things change. As an aside, coming back from from ayahuasca ceremony this week, my integration's been this past couple of weeks really. My integration's been very gentle, very slow, very soft. And it's been a lot of me sort of not feeling called to do very much. So I've been meditating, sit outside in nature, read in the morning rather than write, sit there feeling like I should be doing something. I should, excuse me, I should be enrolling the owner of Rhythmia and me coming and playing a role there more. I'm not doing enough of that. All of that chatter's been there, but I haven't felt called to do anything like that. And more as I deepen into the work, more and more I trust my intuition and I'm trusting what's showing up, as opposed to the voice that I'm lazy and therefore I can't trust the part of me that just wants to rest or sit still, right? My egoic response to that part of me, that story I have internally is, Adam, it's never okay for you to stop. If you're slowing down, you're failing. You're going to fall behind the pack and then you'll never catch up. You need to work harder, get in front of the pack. Then maybe you can take a break. I never get a break. And instead, I'm just getting more in tune and attenuated to my own intuition and trusting what's showing up. Oh, I'm not called to write in this moment. And then I don't write. That's challenging. And that is exactly, in a way, what there was for me to learn how to be with that client. I could force him to do a project, but then I was going to take the place of everyone else in his life who had forced him to do a project, because that's the way his life had been created. His life was either him sitting there suffering until someone said, fucking do this, because they were tired of his suffering, or him just not doing anything. And he'd oscillate back and forth between those two things. Not do anything. Oh, this is so nice. I don't have to do anything. Build up, build up, build up. Suffer, suffer. Someone comes and do this. And then he does it. Then he resents the person for making him do the thing. Stops doing the thing because he's tired of doing it for other people. Rinse, repeat. So it was really beautiful. And it was really, really challenging. And it's really challenging this last couple of weeks to just like, all right, I guess what there is for me to do is sit and be still. Andrew, you're saying this is really showing me that there's nothing wrong here, and simply this is the place that I'm in with some clients. It is truly an honor to be with them and continue to be a stand for the life they want. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong if you get frustrated with them either, because that's part of your humanity. And when we get frustrated with our clients, we want to be responsible for that, meaning we want to, one, acknowledge that it's there rather than pretending we're not frustrated when we are. That's not being responsible. So we want to acknowledge, this client's driving me nuts. And then we want to bring that to our coach to get supported so that we can move through it, clear it out of our body to get back to love with that client. That's the work of being a coach. That's why we work with our own coaches. Okay, I think that does a pretty good job explaining projects, our relationships with goals, what have you. Let's talk about the secret to selling, and I'm going to I'm gonna look at what this person's written. So I'm not going to share this person's name. They've messaged me. I get a lot of these messages, and often many of you are aware of that because I share a lot of these messages because they're kind of funny to me. Um, but I always, whenever I'm being playful with someone who is trying to sell to me, I also am always cognizant that there's someone on the other side of this conversation who's doing their very best and doesn't know any better. It's easy for us to get really angry with someone who's spamming us. It's easy for us to get really angry and righteously hold they fucking should know better. And I'm going to be the one to tell them. And then what we do is we communicate our anger. We communicate the message we have, but it's laden with our righteous anger. And if you've ever been on the other side of road rage, that's not a very good medium for conveying some kind of piece of gold across to you, right? When someone yells at you, you're like, fucking idiot, fuck off. That's your response. So it's really important to me whenever I'm working with someone like this, whenever I'm in any kind of conversation, whenever I'm being playful with them, et cetera, I want to love them. I want to come to that conversation with an open heart. It doesn't mean I can't be playful. I've had to do a lot of work with the quality of being I bring to the table called wit. I've had to do a lot of work with that to remove the barbs from it. Before any transformation, my wit, I was still very witty, of course, it's part of who I am, but my wit was very sharp and kind of scary. It was mean. And so I'd get this stuff and I would still be joking, but in a way that sliced people up and they were left bleeding out and like, fuck, that sucked. Why is everyone laughing at me? So these days, I'm very committed as we go into this to like hold this with love. This is a person that even though we think they maybe should know better, they can't. It's the nature of our blind spots. It's the same reason you make the mistakes you make and that you tell yourself that you should know better, just like me. And it's hard for us to let go of that shame, that sort of, fuck, Adam, now that I can see what I can see, I should have been able to discern this back then. I shouldn't have done what I did. We had no capacity. We couldn't see this back then. We can only see it now in light of our ability to discern. And so forgiveness is really a willingness to let go of the past being any different and let go of this notion that we could have been any different. That doesn't pay much reverence to our blind spots and how they work. So what we have here with this person, I get a lot of messages from people like this where the starting message is, hey, Adam, great to connect. Looks like we have a lot in common. We're both experts in our own field. Keep up the good work. Sure. There's not much for me to do with that, right? It's nice when people are like, Adam, I love what you do. I love your work, but that quality of being is not present here. What I'm present to in this quality of being is like an initial salvo to establish some authority on that side of the conversation and to fluff me a little bit. I'm happy to be wrong about that. Let's find out. And then the person says, looking forward to connecting with you in the near future. So I just responded, Excelsior, because I don't really know what to say. There hasn't been much yet. Now, for what it's worth, anytime someone asks me any questions, I'm a yes to responding to that because I love connecting with people. I don't care if you're a Nigerian scammer. I get text message spam from people that this is a new thing. People are like sending me spam from random numbers. And I guess the scam is you tell people, you're like, hey, Jack, how are you doing? I want to be with you like we once were together. And then that piques my interest and then I get embroiled. I don't really know how it works. But people have been trying to do that and I'll respond to that. I'm in some ways a really easy mark for connection. I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm a real challenging mark if you're going to try to pitch me. So this is where this person starts to go wrong, which is that they're not genuinely curious about me. They're curious about me only in as much, Excelsior, exactly, Carl, Excelsior. I'm thinking of not Stan Lee, who I think founded that, but Al Gore in South Park when he's talking about Man Bear Pig. Anyhow, so this person responds, he reaches out to me a little later and he says, hey, I just took a look at your profile and I noticed your title, Principal Executive Coach and Podcast Host. Great. That's the least interesting thing about me. And again, this isn't to criticize him. Maybe that's fascinating to him, but we get this a lot in LinkedIn too, where people are like, "Hey, Adam, I notice you're doing great work at Evergrowth Coaching and Consulting Inc." So, it begs the thing is that if that was genuine, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's bullshit. It's bullshit because he's not noticing. There's nothing in my profile that sort of speaks into what they're speaking. So there's a disingenuity to this person. There's a disingenuity to what they're speaking. Who goes to someone's profile and look and notices? It's just weird, right? So we can kind of feel that, and it starts to be like, ugh. And then the next thing they say is, can you tell me a little bit more about your audience? You can see my profile and what I do. I'd love to help you and your audience if it's a good fit and look forward to hear more about what you do. So again, I want to be really cautious. This is not to critique or criticize this person for what they're doing, but rather to show how sales and how, let me get some good words for this, or even some shitty words for it. I want to show the divergence that happens between organic, natural results and the divergence between that and sort of a sales-driven process, how that divergence happens over time. That's what I'm intending to illustrate here. So it's interesting. This person pitched me. I just scrolled up even further and I said, I'm going to pass on the offer and appreciate you checking in. So he's already made one attempt with me. And then he sort of came back around and tried, hey, it's great to connect. So even before we start, there's not like that genuine connection. It would just be like, yo, dude, I love what you do. Or yo, dude, your style's cool. I don't mind if people want to compliment my style. Or yo, dude, your hair's fucking crazy. Anything like that, right? That's a genuine, like, just something about me that they're acknowledging. Instead, it's sort of like, yo, dude, you can just feel. You can feel we're already on this side of like, what is the salesy thing to ask this person or to speak to in this person? So there's an agenda present as opposed to just genuine, the sole agenda being connection. And then the next step, the further separation from a genuine connection is less like, here's something I'm excited about, or here's something I've noticed about you, or I've been following your work and this is what I'm present to. And instead, it's sort of like, there's a lot of this in when people are trying to create a relationship through a pitch is sort of like wanting me to do the work. Adam, tell me about your audience, or Adam, tell me how I can help you. Again, they don't know any better. So this isn't a criticism, but asking someone, first of all, it's always worth checking, like, is this person up to a lot? What is this person doing in their world? And if you go on my profile, you're probably going to see like, shit, this guy's up to a lot. He's doing a lot. Asking someone to tell you more, to do the work, it's not very enrolling. It's sort of like, do a bunch of work so I can then enroll you in hiring me. Nah, I'm not going to do that. And so anytime someone throws this at me, I just tell them, go look at my feed. You don't have to look very far to see who my audience is. It's all there. It's all written in the content I share. It's all in the whatever. And so what's missing in this, where the connection is really divergent from trying to sell something, trying to pitch something, is this person's not really genuinely interested. Because I assert if they were, they'd be reading through that stuff and they'd already have an idea. They might come forward like, hey, my sense is this is your audience. Do I have that right? Tell me about those people. That's a much more enrolling thing. I'm eager to talk about the audience because they've done some of that research themselves. So we want to really, when we're seeking to like get to know someone, we want to do some work. Not because it's work, because we're genuinely interested in them. So when someone adds me on Facebook and anytime people add me as a friend, I get a lot of friend requests. The first thing I usually do is I click on their profile and I'm asking myself 3 questions. One, do we have a connection in common? Is it through accomplishment coaching? I led their work for 5 years. Do I know them through that? Or is it through ayahuasca? Or is it through like a group of people that I associate with that are all very focused in transformation? Do we have some kind of mutual connection? Or is this just a rando? 2, is there something about their profile that kind of like inspires me or makes me curious? And 3, based on that answer, am I going to say yes to the friend request and unfollow them? Am I going to say yes? That's the vast majority. Am I going to say yes to the friend request and stay following them, meaning they get to they get the privilege of showing their stuff to me in my feed? Or am I just going to delete the friend request, which then has them show up as a follower of my stuff? So if someone friends me and I delete it, they still get my stuff in their feed. Hopefully they want that, but we're not connecting in that way. And that usually happens when I get added by accounts that are just like a photo, a cover image, and that's it. And I'm like, well, you're not really volunteering very much, so I'm not going to volunteer very much anyhow. But I'm always curious about what's going on. What does this person have? What is this person sharing? I want to learn a little bit about them. And the vast majority of these pitches are totally lacking in curiosity. And from that place, there's not really much. When we don't give people the generous gift of our own curiosity, they're not really inspired to share very much with us. And consequently, people in these conversations, pitching, feel exhausted. They feel like they're pulling people through mud because that's what they're doing. They're not willing really to walk through the mud themselves, and so they're pulling teeth. It's kind of fun to just offer one-word answers or to play with this and just to see like how much work is this person really willing to do. If I just stay limp and let them keep trying to pitch at me and just make me do the work, and I'm just simply not willing to do the work, but willing to be in the conversation with them, what's going to happen? These are all kind of fun things we can do to create art with these people. Here's the last thing this person said, which is, Adam, I checked out your website and I love all that. Great. Now I'm curious, what did you love about it? Why did you love it? Did you actually love it, or are you just saying that to me? I'd be interested in connecting and discussing how we can help empower each other's audiences. If you're open to that, let me know and we can schedule a time. So this is the other thing that I see a lot of is people send a message. I get a lot of this on LinkedIn where it's just like, I'd love to talk about how we can support each other. How about we book 15 minutes in each other's calendar? And I'm pretty generous with my time. I'm willing to have a conversation with a lot of people, but there's nothing interesting about that for me because it's rare I've found that people really want to know how I can support them. It's more, how can I find out what you're doing, Adam, that I can support? And which is basically, how can I pitch you? So I'm going to talk about what we do instead of this, how we actually build organic clientele, business, all of that sort of stuff. It starts by not spelling it B-I-Z as a side note. Come back to that later. I just want to read what you wrote first here, Andrew. You said, one of the things that you shared, Adam, in the recent weeks that's been helpful for me is to actually own that, yes, I might actually want to work with this person, but that connection won't be built in a messenger conversation. That we get to connect with a lot of people, and at times people want to work with us. It's a beautiful thing to own instead of trying to hide that desire to work with someone through an outright pitch. Yeah, totally. It's a gift to really acknowledge to someone like, you seem cool. I'm open to the possibility that we might want to work together, or that I might want to work with you and you may not want to work with me, or whatever it happens to be. But at least then we can be honest. We're not trying to pretend that we're not something that we are. People are just going to have to get used to that fact. Some people are like, well, I don't like that you relate to me as a client. And it's sort of like, I don't. I relate to you as a fascinating person. And the people that I end up in a committed coaching relationship with are a subset of people I find fascinating. So the long and skinny of it is, you're fascinating. And I think that you might, I don't know yet, but there's a possibility that I'm open to that you and I work together, or that I just feel on some level that we would have a cool partnership. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to force anything I'm not going to force any of that on you. I don't want to pretend it's not there, because then I'd be inauthentic with you. And my commitment above all else is to be authentic about this. So what do we really do? The first thing we do is we be willing to enroll ourselves in the possibility of genuinely connecting with human beings and finding delight solely in that. Most selling is a misery, and it's a misery because it requires you to do a whole bunch of stuff as a means to an end. Doing stuff as a means to an end is a fancy way of saying you should do something, or you have to do something. And when we should or have to or see something as a means to an end, we end up creating an experience of life that is, I'm willing to eat this shit sandwich so I can have that ice cream sundae. And I like ice cream. Hopefully I've made that clear and evident to you. But I'm not a big fan of eating shit sandwiches. And as long as we're living through the lens of I'm willing to eat a shit sandwich, hey, good for you. You're willing to walk through the mud, but you're still going to have an experience of eating a shit sandwich. And it doesn't have to be that way. I would assert, and I stand for the possibility that we can actually be empowered about everything we do. That may not be the default. That's not necessarily the starting place for us. But if we're willing to do the hard work and get supported, we can create an empowered ice cream kind of, or at least like, it's more like vegetables. It starts to become like vegetables. Vegetables are not as good as ice cream. This is an objective truth. But stir fries are pretty delicious. And carrots with hummus are pretty delicious. I don't really love eating raw mushrooms or raw broccoli, and I'm not a big fan of salads because I feel a bit like a rabbit and it's a lot of crunching and it's kind of annoying to me. But I really like steamed vegetables. And so there are ways that I can experience vegetables and the fact that they're good for me in a way that's not me forcing myself to eat a salad because it's good for me. Instead, I have an experience of vegetables that's like, this is delicious. Can't believe I get to eat this and it's good for me. We can create every aspect of our lives through that lens. To do that, though, we have to be willing to stop tolerating our story that we are willing to eat a shit sandwich in order to have ice cream. That's where it starts. And being a commitment to stop tolerating something doesn't mean that then you say, fuck it, I'm never going to do sales. I'm never going to do anything that's shit sandwichy for me. I'm just going to hire people. I'm going to go to those people doing lead generation. That's what those people doing lead generation are doing, is they're ultimately selling you a solution that is only arising because of your disempowered relationship to the thing you're doing. If you changed that relationship to the shit sandwich, hey, Dathel, nice to see you. Dathel's name gets me every single time. It's the most I love that that's your name. It's so perfect for you, and it's great to see you. If you were to change your relationship to this thing you're calling a shit sandwich, you would stop requiring hot lead generation because you'd be like, fuck it, I don't fucking care. I'm down with this. I like eating vegetables. Stir fry is really tasty. So we have to stop being willing to tolerate that part of our thinking, that part of our energy, where we say, I'm willing to do this shitty stuff so I can have the good stuff. That's better than just being like, life sucks, I'm not going to do anything. So it's not that arriving at that place is bad. It's just that the next level is beyond that. And as we start to break up all of that stuff, we stop being so focused on selling and doing this stuff to get to selling. Instead, what starts to happen is we find ourselves in a position where we're like, I'm no longer willing to tolerate my story that something's a shit sandwich. So I got some work to do right here at this thing called connecting with people. This person that's connecting with me that I just read that stuff about, I can't imagine he's really enjoying it, which is too bad because I'm a fun guy and I'm having a great amount of fun with him. But for him, I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine he's finding me kind of tedious, kind of annoying. It doesn't have to be that way. He could learn, he could take on sort of an experience where he starts to find joy in this. There was an experience I had recently where some guy on LinkedIn was like, he sent me this long paragraph about like his book, and I was like, what do you want to tell me about your book? And he responded, you can get it on Amazon, and he sent me the link. And I was like, that's probably the most fucking boring thing anyone could tell me about their book. And I responded, I mean, I was just having fun at this point, right? Like, because to me that's hilarious. That's the thing you want me to know about your book? It's available on Amazon. Like, I responded saying, okay, that's the thing you want me to know about your book. And then he was taken aback by what I said. He responded a little snippily, but like, there's an opportunity in all of this for us to have fun and to really find delight in connecting with people. I could get upset or annoyed with this guy for pitching me his book, or I could just find delight in that conversation. And what I find is as we find delight in that conversation, a lot of that other stuff starts to fall away. A lot of the angst, a lot of the, oh, I have to go and talk to 5 people starts to become like, man, this could be really fun. I wonder who I'll talk to today. And I wonder what wackiness I'm going to get to come up against. And I wonder where I'll get to be playful and laugh. And maybe I can make someone else laugh. And as we do that, we stop thinking about any part of our life as selling. Our life stops being about a series of things we have to do to achieve the end. trouble with your life being about a series of things you have to do to achieve or get to a certain end is that your life becomes only celebratory, only exciting, only worthwhile for you in these moments when you've achieved the end. The rest is all subsequent to that. It's all like stuff you're doing to arrive. And you've probably noticed down this lens that you arrive and you move past it pretty quick. Someone, um, someone I really enjoy very much has created a beautiful milestone for themselves. They got hired at a really high rate, brand new rate for them as a coach. And I was like, how are you feeling about that? And they're like, it's amazing and cool. And I'm kind of already like, what's next? And, she's not doing the same thing, but that's the tendency for all of this, is that we arrive at the place that we put so much emphasis and so much into, and we realize, oh, I've arrived and now I'm ready for the next thing. So why not create a life where every little bit is as rewarding as the end unto itself? Create your life such that the means are the ends unto themselves. And when we start to do that, selling falls away, as does all of our anxiety about it. And it starts to become really, really fun. It becomes really like a joy to connect with people, even and especially when they're like, fuck you for trying to sell to me. Because then we can find enjoyment in that. We don't have to be taken aback or take it personally because we weren't really trying to sell to them anyhow. We were just sort of like, I'm curious about you. Tell me about yourself. And they're like, they give you this long list of all the stuff that they're not interested in. And we can kind of just enjoy that and be like, that is a beautiful thesis you've written on what is not acceptable for you. So let me see, what can I thread the needle here of our interaction that will not get me in trouble? Life starts to become a real playful joke at that point. Andrew, what have you written? So you've literally gone through a process of deepening connection over the years. I used to create a lot of my initial connection through Messenger, and now I'm finding myself bored with it. I'm wanting to be in connection quicker, or Zoom, the phone, or in person. I'm really enjoying the direction this is going. Yeah, me too. And I also really love Messenger. And one of my favorite things, first of all, connection as a quality of being will always, it's almost like it'll always absorb someone that is trying to do some form of connection in service of something else. So what I mean by that is, if you embody the quality of being that is connection, meaning you're curious about this person, meaning you wonder what's going on, meaning rather than pay a lot of attention to your initial reaction to something, you get curious about the human being over there. You keep putting your heart on their side of the fence. If you embody that quality, what you start to find is it almost defeats all of these superficial attempts at connection, these attempts of people to like pitch to you. And what's really kind of neat is one of two things tends to happen. Three, I'll say one of three things, but the first two are kind of similar. The first is people get bored of you because they can't seem to get any traction. They're trying to get you, and you're not even giving them the satisfaction of the fuck you response, which then they could be like, that person's just not ready for whatever. So they kind of, they try until they're eventually like, whatever, and walk away, which is its own kind of reward, right? You're defeating a sales pitch through love rather than through blocking them or shouting at them. The second thing that can kind of happen is that they do get kind of frustrated with you, excuse me, and they start to try to throw stuff at you to almost to create a reaction. I don't know if it's conscious or not, and we can, not maliciously, not like as a way of denigrating them, but we can just find joy and delight in that. Like, wow, look at what's happening as this person tries to create something other than connection, tries to create the artifice of connection, and is met with genuine connection, a human being genuinely connecting with them. And the third thing is the most rewarding thing, which is this thing falls away where people fall out of their pitch and they are pulled into the being of connection you are being clearing for. And they start to get genuinely curious with you, and they start to ask genuine questions. That's the most rewarding thing. One of the things, I have this agenda, which is I really want to, we all get those spam emails, those spam text messages, and I'm careful about where I respond to them. But I want to, my agenda is when I get those people that are like, Prince Igbo from Nigeria, who just have, it turns out I've got a ton of relatives in Nigeria. What a weird coincidence. Didn't know that. I don't seem very Nigerian, and yet I have bloodline back there, I guess. I really want to enroll. I want to transform those people. I want to be in a conversation with them where they're trying to pitch to me, they're trying to pitch to me, they're trying to pitch to me, and they fall through the floor of that artifice into an experience of connection with me. And at that point, the possibility that I'm present to is who knows what could happen? Who knows? Maybe their lives transform because I'm willing to be really curious about what's going on over there on the other side of the fence. Maybe I become the person in their life that they can genuinely say, like, I hate what I do, or I love what I do, or I don't know, who knows what it happens to be, right? But genuine connection is tremendously healing, and magic can happen when we're willing to hold that space and not get pulled off of it by our reactivity to what's going on, to what someone's trying to hook us with. So that's my vision. That's one of the things that I'd really like to do is simply through the gift of connection, support those people. Be in a conversation with them. Let them actually share like how life is, as opposed to all the nonsense. I've tried that with someone who they were trying to, I think they were trying to get me to like probably go click some stupid sexy pictures. You know these things, right? Hello, kisses, blah blah blah. And it was more, their approach was a little less blatant than that, because that stuff is just so blatantly spam. I just block it immediately. But this person started a little less forceful, and so I was kind of willing to meet them and be in a conversation. But it's interesting because oftentimes you can feel them start to come down and then they jump back up into like, so go to my website. You're like, no, I'm not going to do that. How is this experience going for you right now? It's great. You're very sexy. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually wondering how you are actually feeling in this moment. I feel like there's an interesting person on the other side of this call and they're not letting me see them. I wonder what you're really like. You know, you can be in that experience. And so that's the heart of selling. That is what sales, that's the secret to sales, is if we can start to meet with people at that place, we can start to find out what they desire. We can start to learn about their genuine concerns, their desires, all of that sort of stuff. And if we are willing to be a clearing in which people can share that with us, then we can start to see like, is there an opportunity for me to serve this person? Not so that I can make money, but because who I'm committed to being on this planet is someone that serves other people. Life lived from that place becomes very joyful, very playful. Andrew, I see what you're writing here. The light and the joy that you bring to sales and enrollment is truly a gift, Adam. You've transformed how I approach all of it these last 2 years. I'm smiling at all that has shifted since the Creating Clients course. I love that, Andrew. You're such a poster child for the gift of this approach and what becomes available. And and I love getting to be a clearing for all of these people on LinkedIn and Messenger, because honestly, I want to talk to more people more often. I just want more chatting. I love instant message chatting. I miss the days of ICQ way back in the day when we all instant messaging was brand new and you would just search for a new person to chat and you'd start chatting. And there was less, we were more innocent back then with instant messaging. We kind of moved away from that. This was back before text messaging existed as well. And I loved getting into conversations. And back then I would troll people a lot more. But these people they meet a need for me too, which is the need to connect with people. It brings me joy. Okay. I said I was going to talk about ways to work with me in 2022 last time. I'm going to talk about it this time. I think it's going to be cool because I'm sharing sort of how my practice has shifted. So there's been a few things, like over time, my rates have raised. And they've raised for a few reasons. One is because I felt called to raise them. So more and more, my commitment in my life is to live my life from a place of what I'm called into. Again, trusting intuition, trusting my intuition rather than trusting what I should do, which isn't trusting, right? Doing what I should do is the abdication of trust. I'm just going to do what is written in the rule book, energetically or literally. So one, I've just, every now and then I feel a call to. Two, what happens over time, I notice, is that I become oversubscribed. There's more people wanting my service than I have room to provide. And so I'm like, all right, well, it's time to raise my rates and challenge myself that way and all of that sort of stuff. And three, the people I'm partnering with, they are playing a bigger game in their life, and a lower rate is not sufficient to call for their commitment. So what that means is for some people in the early days, I was working with people for which $1,000 a month was an insane investment. And there's a ton of coaches meeting people at that place, and that's a beautiful thing. $1,000 a month was just crazy. But over time, as I started to continue to deepen in my own work, I was starting to work with people, and $1,000 a month, they would throw that away. $12,000 for a year of work, they could waste that on anything. And in fact, they were. And consequently, $1,000 was not sufficient as a container for their commitment to the life they say they want. That's what my rates are with my clients. That's what your rates are with your clients is, well, you get to create this context for yourself if you want to. But I find this a really powerful one is my rate is not what I'm worth. It's how it's a holder. It's a sacred container, energetically speaking, for the commitment the client is to what they say they want in their life. And the beautiful thing about that way of relating to my rates is it calls me forward to really serve that client before we started working together. I have to sit down with them and I have to kind of think internally as well as over there. Do I feel that this person is currently $65,000 invested? Is this commitment, is this vision that they've created, is that $65,000 for them? Are they aligned around that? Do they feel that connection? No? Great. I got more work to do. We got to pull that out. We got to pull that out. We got to create that. We got to make that vision big because that has them ready to take that step off the diving board. A lot of people, if we keep our rates really low, we never really have to ask that question of ourselves. If a coach charges $100 a month, most people will just be a yes to that, provided they like the coach enough. The client's never brought to that moment of like, am I really willing? Do I really want this in my life? Am I really willing to do what will be required of myself? And it doesn't stop with the money, it starts. There's a whole bunch of shitload of stuff you have to do after that. Am I really willing to do what I say I'm willing to do in order to create this thing? $100 a month, they don't have to confront that. And so consequently, the coach doesn't fully serve the client before they've started to work together. So my rates have raised, and what I've noticed is over time, that means that a lot of people that I'd love to support can't be in a committed relationship with me. We can be on these conversations. They can listen to my podcast. They can message me and try to pitch me stuff if they want. But there's a missed place that I want to be of service to the world. So initially, I created the Forge. Bay and I created the Forge, which is I'll put this in the little chat here so that people can see it. We've just finished doing some awesome visual branding work, which you can see if you click on my Facebook page, you'll see the new brand stamp that we've got. It looks amazing. I haven't updated the website yet. But we created the Forge for coaches and leaders that really want to become transformational in their being. What that means is that they do the hard work over here to show up in the world transformed, and from that place, they can support other people to transform. That's the heart of what it is to be a medicine man. We heal ourselves. We heal our lineage, our relationship to our soul and to nature. The rest unfolds from there. So we created the Forge, but there's a lot of people for which the Forge is either not really what they're looking for. They don't want to learn how to do that. They want to do more sort of one-on-one or like less. They don't want to learn the art of transformation and coaching and stuff like that. And that's largely what we teach in the Forge. We help people, regardless of what they're doing in their life, support other people with transformation, teach them tools and a new way of being, blah, blah, blah. And so as I was shifting my practice around, I guess I should talk about that. I shifted my practice. And what happened as I started to go down to ayahuasca and do more work with plant medicine was I got this real clear vision that initially was not clear at all. Initially, it was like, fuck, I'm meant to be a shaman. What do I do about that? And as I sobered and spent more time and got still, that vision started to become more and more clear. And what came into focus was like, oh, there is some degree to which my path includes integrating plant medicine with the work I do as a coach and bringing people kind of like a bridge, helping people walk from the world they currently inhabit to plant medicine, and helping people then walk from the ceremony, the plant medicine, to the world that they left. And both of those bridges are really important. You can just leave your life as it currently stands, go drink ayahuasca, and then come back, and absolutely there's going to be shifts. But there's going to be this sort of thing where you're going to leave this world that was in this shape, that you created it, that met you in your old shape. And you're going to go, let's do it this way. There we go. This is you. You're going to go off and drink and transform, and you're going to come back and clash with that shape of that old world. And it's going to have you and the world kind of renegotiate energetically what's going on. How do we be with each other? What does stuff look like? So there's real value in that bridge. And oftentimes we return to the life that we left and we don't understand, why is it so hard? Or why aren't people just supporting me? Or why don't I feel like this is sticking? Why is it that I'm reverting back to these ways? Of course, you won't revert completely, but you're certainly going to revert to some extent. And so it's creating a shift in my whole practice. I changed the way that I work with people, moving from 3 times a month to twice a month. And on the second week of each month, I created open calls. So on Tuesday and Thursday, every month from 10 to 11:30, every second week of every month, I have open calls. And these open calls are for all my clients to come and join. And I'm opening those up to people that want to make the commitment for a year at a time to join those open calls. And what that does is it provides a way for people to be in a committed relationship with myself, in a committed relationship with other people that are committed to their own transformation, and to be committed in a conversation that is transformational. So what I mean by that is we often, we've read the sort of, you're the product of the 5 people that you're in relationship with, and then we try to seek out those people and we're like, yeah, I'm in a relationship with 5 powerful people. But it requires something special, not just to be in relationship with someone, but to be in a relationship in a transformational way. Most people aren't trained in that. Most people can't lead or hold a space transformationally because they've never had it modeled for them. Instead, they've read a few books, which is great. And then they're like, I think I've got it. And then we go and we basically ape. We do cargo cultism. We sort of mimic the doing of transformation without actually being transformed. So I'm stoked about these open calls. I'm calling them the Nexus. I've been writing some copy to make it sound sexy. But like the general idea is that it provides a way for people to be in relationship with myself, my clients, and transformation, full stop, and to gain the benefit of what happens when we put ourselves in a transformational conversation. And if you've ever, like, one of the things that's really cool when I go to ayahuasca to sit in ceremony is over the span of a whole week, there's between 50 and 100 of us at any given time, at least where I go, Rhythmia. And over the span of that week, we're with each other exclusively. And what we are in is a transformational container. The whole container is set up to support transformation. We sit in breath work. We sit in transformational plant medicine. All of that is designed to allow for and to create and to hold the container of transformation. And whilst we are going and drinking the medicine and sitting in breath work and going to classes and learning about all this stuff, there's also a really potent magic that people always notice and report, which is just the magic of being with other people as transformation's happening. Like, so much of the ceremony happens and exists and becomes powerful just by virtue of us being with other people while we're transforming. The conversation that you end up in is in itself transforming. That's what we're creating with the Nexus. An opportunity for people to be monthly in a transformational conversation and to gain the benefit just from that alone, along with the benefit of like bringing something they want to work on to get supported, being a part of a community that is doing that kind of work, that is engaged in those kind of conversations. That, yes, Dale, that's exactly, we met each other. That was, and I remember Dathel said the best thing to me. I'll come back to what I was saying. I just want to take a moment to talk about this. I like to sit at these little cabanas. They're covered because it's hot in Costa Rica, and because I think I had a tattoo healing, I didn't want to tan it. And I was chatting with 3 other guys, and I had not met Dathel yet. She walked over and kind of interrupted, not rudely, just to say, we've decided, or maybe it was I've decided, that you are I can't remember what you called me, Dathel. It might have been like the man whisperer or the man feelings whisperer. But she was like, when you sat down, all the guys started talking about their feelings, which I loved. It was so great. But it does speak a bit to the transformational container. Magic happens. We we start to be engaged more in a transformational conversation internally because we're engaged with it more externally. And the nature of transformation is that it's not free. It's not happening just in and of itself. I don't naturally transform by myself without the support of my coach because my ego's job is to grab everything I create from yesterday and use it today to keep me safe, lovingly, to hold me in check. And so the ego innocently erodes the transformational conversation. It has to be something we generate moment by moment. So that's part of the opportunity of the Nexus is to put yourself, ourselves, into a conversation that supports us to continue to be in transformation. And then like some of the stuff I'm really excited about is um, to sometimes to coach, sometimes to model leadership and help people see, sometimes to zero in on one person, really go deep with them, sometimes work with multiple people. I'm excited to provide people with the opportunity to see leadership as is modeled because I do my best to provide that here and everything I create in the world, but it's never the same as being in a group where someone is leading and we're like, oh, I get it. And to teach that and to be transparent. And finally, I'm kind of excited to do some teaching because typically we get to do that on these live shows, but not so much anywhere else. That doesn't really tend to happen. So all of that, and then the last thing that I really want to create with those open calls is sort of to bring not you got to pay for it to make it happen, but for all of us to go together down to sit in ayahuasca ceremony. Of course, totally optional, but to go and sit in that at some point and really bring all of the goodness that we're creating on a monthly basis to Rhythmia, and then just it's like an accelerant. It accelerates everyone there and accelerates our own transformation, all of that sort of stuff. So that is something I'm launching that starts in July. I don't know. I guess I'll put details somewhere. I don't know. This is me selling, I think. Okay, it's 11:30. I need to go and get a tattoo done, updated. Every time I sit in ayahuasca, I have like 5 new ideas for tattoos. It's very expensive. Look at this. Who do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are? I'm just going to briefly show this. You've probably watched the video where I talked about it. I'm super excited. Yes, it's a thick book. You're not going to read all of it. It's sort of like a dictionary. The first section here you're going to read. You better. The third section here you're going to read, and the rest of this is reference, like StrengthsFinder. Kind of like how if you got StrengthsFinder, you only really read a couple sections. This thing is gorgeous. I am so excited to put it into the hands of people I love. And I think we're going to start. I don't understand how pre-selling all of this marketing stuff, it makes my eyes cross. And I'm committed to not holding it like a shit sandwich. So I'm working with that. I've got to figure out what that looks like, but I'm off to Scotland soon to renew my vows with Bay. And so I'm not going to launch before that. I think once we come back, we'll do that. And I'm probably going to set up an opportunity for people to register for pre-sales so that they can, so Dave, I love you. You are the best. You are a favorite. Register for pre-sales so people can put their name on a list so that it's not me trying to hold this all up in my head and then disappointing everyone, which tends to happen when I try to keep it all in my head. Okay, guys, we talked about Magic the Gathering and the Black Lotus. We talked about some leadership stuff. We had a few jokes. We had some joy. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Thanks for coming and spending my favorite way to spend a Friday morning. And I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing weekend. And next week will be the last Facebook Live we'll do for a while because I'm heading out of country to go marry my boo again. So see y'all next week if you're here. And if not, see you whenever we see you next. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.